Hey guys, welcome back to Will Small Engines. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to install an impeller kit in a snowblower. So first, before we actually do the installation, I'm just going to explain sort of what an impeller kit is and why you might want to consider installing one in your machine. So essentially what an impeller kit does is, this is a diagram of like the snowblower impeller assembly area. Anyway, so this cross here is the impeller, and see this gap right here where the end of this pen is between the edge of the impeller, or the edge of the housing and the impeller. So this is what the impeller kit does, is it closes up this gap, because I'll put a picture on the screen. When there's a gap around the impeller and the housing, snow builds up in there and thus reduces the efficiency of the impeller and just bogs down the machine. So before we get to the installation, I thought I would explain the parts we're going to need to do this. So here's the impeller kit that I bought. I think it was like 25 bucks from Amazon, and it comes with, you can either get 3 or 4 of these. It depends what you want to do. Anyway, or it depends on the impeller you have. Anyway, so the one I bought came with 3 pieces of rubber, and they're pretty thick, as you can see, a little more than a 1/4 inch. So these pieces of rubber are a little more than a 1/4 inch thick, so they should work perfect for this. And it also came with a bunch of hardware and these metal plates to like make this all rigid on the impeller. And I've also included here some of my own hardware for the chute assembly that you'll see here in a minute. Okay, so now I'm going to pull the snowblower into the shop, but first I'm going to put a clip on the screen of a couple weeks ago. I tested the snowblower, how it was stock for throwing distance, so I'll put that up on the screen right now. Okay, so after completing 2 passes like this, the total throwing distance is, where the things ended anyway, was about 25 feet. Okay guys, so here's the snowblower. It's the one we did tune up to in the previous video. So the first thing you're going to do whenever you're doing an impeller kit is remove the spark plug cap, because since we're going to be working in the impeller, we don't want the engine to accidentally spin over and start, for obvious reasons. Alright, so the first thing we're going to have to do on this snowblower is take off the chute, because on this one, I mean, you could probably do this without taking off the chute, but it's just a lot easier if we take off the chute and then take off this bottom plastic piece here. So the first step to doing all this is removing this chute turn arm. So there's a pin here, just pull this out with your hands. And then grab the washer, and then pull this out of here. And then what I like to do is put all the parts back on the end, including the clip, so that you don't lose them. Okay, so first step to taking off this MTD, or to take off the chute on this particular MTD snowblower, there's 6 of these bolts around the whole outside, and they're just a 7/16 size on the top, and then there's also a 7/16 nut on the bottom. And once you take it out, there's going to be a plastic spacer, so I'll show you the orientation that the plastic spacer has to be in. Also, don't be alarmed if your bolts break, because, well, they're like 1,000,000 years old and they're all rusted. So just plan on replacing them anyway, so I'm going to do that. As you saw, I have bolts on the table over there. Okay, so now I have one bolt partially in, and I'm going to take it out the rest of the way and show you the plastic spacer. So here we go. This is the orientation the plastic spacer has to be in. So it goes up like this. And what this does is it locks it around a little ring here, like this, to keep the chute in place. So now, just take out the rest of the 6 bolts, and then you're going to be good to go to the next step. And for reference, here's one of the bolts that I took out. As you can see, the harsh Canadian winters have not been nice to it. Look at the rust. Like, this is awful. Okay, so once your chute is fully removed, the next step is going to be taking off this black plastic. I'm going to call it a chute base. I don't know the actual name. Anyway, so there's 6 bolts on it again. So there's 2 here, 2 in the middle, and 2 in the bottom. And these ones you might actually have to cut off with a grinder because these like to rust on here for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, oh, they're also carriage bolts, so you might want to you can stick your hand in here to hold up the bottom side when you take it off. And it's a 7/16 socket, by the way. Alrighty guys, so I've taken off the chute base, and I've actually left in the bottom 2 bolts because when we put the impeller kit in, we're going to want to butt it up against the side of this wall here, and we're going to notch out where these 2 bolts are so that we can have maximum coverage against here. Also, check out the size of this gap. I can stick my hand in there. Like, that is going to cut down on efficiency like crazy. So again, I'll put a picture on the screen of what it does, like how it leaves snow in here with this gap, that is unacceptable. Like, that's crazy. That's like more than half an inch right there. Look, that's nuts. Okay guys, so now we're ready to measure out how big our impeller paddle has to, impeller paddle has to be. So the first thing I've done is jam the impeller with a piece of wood so it doesn't move when we're trying to do this. So here's the paddle itself, and as you can see, it's got 3 holes. So I would like to utilize 2 of those holes because obviously we're going to have to cut this to make it fit. So I'm thinking that we can just do this flat part down here and not have to worry about this angled part. So I'm going to we're going to mark this metal piece that it came with the Sharpie to the same width that this is here, with the flat part, and then we're going to cut all the rubber pieces to how big this is. So we're going to lay this down here and then mark it right about there. So that's how long it has to be, and I guess you could also use a tape measure too to measure this, but I'm going to use this because it has all the holes in it. So now I'm going to cut these with an angle grinder, and then I'm going to show you guys how to cut these and what tool I'm going to use to do it. Okay guys, so now I cut the metal pieces to the correct length. Now we're going to cut the rubber paddles. So to do that, I'm going to hold up one of these to here and line up the holes with the holes in the rubber paddle. So like that. And then I'm going to use my multi-tool here, and I'm just going to mark it there, and then just cut it. The reason I'm not just going to line this up to here and cut it is because we wouldn't be getting a full, like, 2 holes worth of material. It wouldn't work out good. So that's what I'm going to do, is just line this up to the 2 holes, and then cut it with my multi-tool here. And remember to always wear your safety glasses when you're doing this, because you don't want to get this rubber in your eyes. Alrighty guys, so now I've test fitted one of the pieces, and remember earlier how I said I would notch around these? I don't think I will, because I just held this up and not much rubber will hit those. And I did some more research, and apparently it'll just self-clearance itself anyway, and like the first couple uses, so that's fine. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use this metal part as a sort of a drill guide and drill through these holes and then bolt it on. And now you can kind of see how much of that gap the rubber is taking up. That's quite a bit there. Okay guys, so now we're going to mark out the holes to drill through this thing. So I've got my drill here, and I've got a bit that fits through the holes pretty snugly. So way through on the first shot with this bit because it's a little big, but we're just going to mark out where the 2 holes are. So here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to hold this down, then I'm going to pull the metal plate up to kind of the max area. So like right at the top of the holes. And then since I jammed it with a piece of wood, the impeller that is, we can hold this and it's not going to move. So here we go. Here's the first one. We're good. And then, so there's the first one. Now I'm going to mark the second one and then drill all the way through. And this is pretty thick metal, by the way, so just take your time, and you might want to use some sort of lubricant like WD-40 to cool the drill bit off while you're drilling. Okay everyone, so now we have all the holes drilled and now we're going to start installing our impeller kit pieces. So the kit itself came with bolts and nuts that we're going to use. So since we're only going to use 2 holes in this, we're only going to have to use 2 nuts and bolts. Alright, let's get installing this. So to do this, what I'm going to do is we're going to stick everything through here first. So there we go, there's that one. And then we're also going to get this side like this. And then we're going to stick this through our 2 holes here, which hopefully they line up. If they do, I'm doing this the wrong way, sorry. Here we go. There and there. And now from underneath, I'm going to reach around with this, the nut, and then tighten it from the top with my impact, because it's just easier that way. And you might have to reach around through here to get them on here. So there's that one. This part's probably the hardest part of the whole job, honestly. And then we're also, so we're gonna tighten them most of the way, and then we're also gonna like fine tune it afterwards. Because obviously you can't just crank it down like this and expect it to be correct. So there we go. Got my impact, got my 1/2 inch. These are 1/2 inch sizes, by the way, that it came with, which I like that. Okay guys, so now I have all 3 kind of just loosely on there. Now we're going to go ahead and finally tighten them all up. And one thing I've noticed as I've started to spin this around is it's much harder because of the resistance the impeller kit causes, which is kind of cool. And yeah, see all this stuff it's catching? Like, look at this. It means it's working. The back one's pretty hard to get to, so now we're going to do all the front ones and then go around again and do all the back ones. And I found impact works really well for this because it gets the bolts nice and tight. Here's the last one. Then we're going to reassemble the chute with new hardware and then go test it out. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm itching to see if this thing works any better. Alright, there we go. Now let's get the chute all reassembled. Okay, so I don't think I need to show you guys how to reinstall this because you already took it off. But to put it on, it's literally the reverse of taking it off. And here's all the new hardware I have. So just the new carriage bolts with lug nuts and washers. Alrighty, well, she's all back together. Now, there's only one thing left to do. So, let's go load it in the truck and bring it to our secret spot. Now, I don't know. There's one limiting factor to this machine, and I'll get to that right now. That's going to be the 5 horsepower engine. They're not bad for power, but if it had an 8 horsepower, like any of those, like those 2 machines over there, I think this would be like the best machine ever. Quite frankly. So I guess we'll have to see how the 5 horsepower does with the impeller kit installed. Okay, so from way over there, where the snowblower is, I measured it to over here, and that's 41 feet. So needless to say, the impeller modification kit works. And yes, I would recommend you do it to your snowblower. And it turns out the 5 horsepower engine wasn't really a limiting factor, so that's awesome. Another thing I noticed while I was testing it out was the snowblower seemed to really like kind of chop up the snow a lot better than it did before, and kind of made it into like a mist-ish, like a finer powder, which is kind of cool. But yeah. Oh, and one more thing. Here's the inside of the impeller housing when the impeller kit is being used. As you can see, it's a lot cleaner, and there's not as much snow stuck to it. This was already there before when I was doing the video earlier. That was already there. But like the rest of it, check that out. Like, that's good right there.